about this love, about this, about this love, about this love. How you guys doing today? You are tuning into About This Love podcast with myself, Dale, and my lovely wife, Charel. Say what's up to the peoples.
Hey.
Hope you guys had a good weekend or a good day or a good afternoon or a good night wherever part of the world you live in. As always, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can ingest our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be ingested. So without further ado, let's get on to the topic. Sweetheart, what was the topic we wanted to discuss today? I know you had up your notes and stuff, so.
I had it up my nose. What?
I see you had up your notes.
Oh, yeah.
Notes, notes.
Okay. All right. I thought you said nose. I'm like, what I have in my nose? But yeah, so it's kind of been on my heart for a while. I wanted us to discuss people living their relationships out for the public to see. You know, like YouTube couples, YouTube vloggers, even celebrities who get reality shows based around their like marriage or their relationship. I was going to call this like public relationships, but then I was like, oh, that might get confused with public relations. But then I looked up the definition of public relations, and it's actually a noun. And the definition was the professional maintenance of a favorable public image by a company or other organization or famous person. And then the relationship between the public and the company or other organizations or a famous person. And so then I was like, oh, that does kind of sound similar, except for this isn't based on the relationship that a couple has with their public, which, I mean, it kind of is. So, you know, that's what I wanted to touch on today.
Okay. I know you were sharing with me, you had watched a few videos and read a few articles about YouTube individuals who were married. And I guess once they went public with the relationships kind of failed because of the extra pressure of the relationship or marriage on display. And then even on the off time, I guess off the camera time, I'm having to kind of conjure up or create content for the YouTube video. So I guess it becomes more work versus just like a relationship and then work. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, you're in the ballpark. So that's like, you know, the result of people, you know, living their relationships on YouTube and how basically they fail. And it made me kind of go down this rabbit hole of why is it that we like to watch, you know, people's relationships play out, whether it be for better or for worse. And when it gets worse, like when there's a divorce, when there's a breakup, why do we feel so strongly tied to them to where it's like, oh my God, why'd they break up? Like, it's to the point where we lose our hope in love and our hope in relationships because it's like we looked up to them. The more I thought about it, I started to think about how the relationships that are in our lives and how we look up to those relationships.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that came to mind for me was just that why do we look up, or the question that came to mind to me was, why do we look up to those relationships? What I was thinking about was, well, because I hadn't seen anything like that, you know, in my life growing up, like any healthy marriages. I mean, I've seen marriages, but I wasn't close enough. I wasn't in the mix of things to know like, oh, well, how did you overcome this? Or how did you overcome that obstacle? And so I feel like we don't get a lot of that transparency. And so what maybe YouTube or reality TV may offer is what we assume to believe is the transparency.
From what I'm hearing from you, because I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about like my grandparents and my uncles and aunts, and just how when I was growing up, when I was younger, like people really didn't. Well, first of all, there wasn't really a social media, but people really didn't display the relationships on display, like kind of like you see on social media. So I guess my question to you is, do you feel like there's a lack of people being transparent with their family, or the ones who are getting in relationships in their family, maybe the younger man or the younger woman, and not really explaining to them the intricacies of relationships, and maybe that's why the YouTube relationships are kind of filling that missing void or that missing piece that they're not getting, I guess, from a natural person in person type of advice.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point you're making. Yeah, so I do believe that. I mean, because I just think about myself and why just the different things that I started watching on YouTube. It started off as very educational, informative. I went to YouTube a lot in the beginning stages of YouTube. I went to YouTube for a lot of hair videos. So that was educational, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there was this surge of like the influencer, the family vlogger. And I didn't start getting into that until I started to become a family. My family started to grow, and I'm just like, well, how do they do this? How do they navigate? Like, what does Friday night for them look like? And I mean, I guess we don't ever realize, like, we may see our grandparents, like my grandparents have been married for 50 plus years. And I think I just started to gauge my grandparents on questions, not with their specific, like, how'd you get through this and how'd you get through that? But just like, hey, so y'all go on dates? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like my grandmother, for example, I would go to her for not necessarily relationship advice, but more so asking her about like her childhood or her upbringing, you know, more than what she's told me. And like, well, and not even like, oh, I know that event happened. So a lot of times I feel like with our family, we know that events happen. You know, we might even be a part of that event happening, but I don't think that we feel so familiar with them that we don't ever take the time to ask, how'd you feel about that? How'd you overcome that? What are you using to cope with that?
Yeah.
And were you going to say something?
I mean, I was going to say, I think a lot of times going back to the question I asked about the YouTube relationships kind of filling a void of what we're not getting from our family. But I think oftentimes I feel like in some instance, older people in our family may not give us advice because they feel like, well, if they do, they're not gonna listen anyway. So what's the point, you know? But I mean, not saying it's a reason not to tell someone to give them advice anyways. But oftentimes I think about just some of the people in my age group in my family who someone in our family might have given them advice about someone they were dating, whether it was one of my male cousins or my female cousins, and usually they never really listen, and you know, they end up wasting a couple years of their life with the person, which to me is like, you know, wow, you know. But because I remember early on when my mother would give me advice about a young woman I was dating when I was like 17, 18 years old, I would always take heed to it, because one of the things that I learned early on in my life, people can see things about a person that you can't see because you're dating them and you're close to them. They're looking from the outside looking in, so you're inside and you really don't see things that they see, or you tend to overlook it. So for that reason alone, I always took heed when my mother said something to me about somebody, or my father said something to me about somebody. I always took heed to that, even if I didn't like break it with the person. It's something that I would, you know, put on my radar and take a mental note to like watch and observe for.
Mm-hmm. I was the total opposite, and I say that because just the different ones in my family who may have given advice, or you know, a lot of times it was unsolicited. And what I've noticed just with my upbringing, I'm just like, how can you give any type of advice when your relationships are crap? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can't, in my mind, I felt like you can't tell me anything. And I mean, a part of that was just that, you know, I felt a lot of times that what they were saying wasn't coming from a place of love. It was coming from a place of hurt. And so it was just kind of like, well, you know, this is how I was hurt. Kind of like, and I know maybe you all who are listening may have heard this saying, like, if it, you know, walk like a duck, talk like a duck, then it's a duck kind of thing.
That's true. But even when someone is saying something bad, or saying something you don't agree with, there's still a level of truth in that. And I think that is what we actually have to push past and be mature enough to receive. Like one of my family members, he got divorced. So oftentimes when I first got married, he would tell me, I can't tell you, you know, what to do to have a good, successful marriage because I ain't have one. He said, but I can tell you things not to do if you don't want to get a divorce. So I think I think that that's not true. Saying, well, you ain't got a good relationship, so what can you tell me? Well, actually, I can tell you a lot. You know, if they're being honest and truthful with themselves, they can honestly tell you a lot. But kind of shifting back to the YouTube relationships, you know, I mean, I just wanted to say that me personally, I think that some things are just sacred. You know, and I think that our older generation and our older family, they understood that, but they understood it, I would say, not to really benefit us, because it's like back then, like I said before, I didn't really know too much about my uncles and my aunts and my grandparents' relationship as it relates to like the details of it and the totality of it. But I mean, I know for the most part, what I saw looked like it was pretty well and pretty good, and most of my aunts and uncles are still married to this day. So I guess it was good. But I think that one of the dangers in the YouTube relationships is that like I said before, it's sacred. Like certain things are meant to be sacred. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like the thing I said to you about the whole Will and Jada thing is like, yo, when you begin to put your business out there on the forefront, you give people an opportunity to criticize and to judge you or to give their opinion about what you're doing, which to me personally, having somebody speak inside my marriage or speak about what I'm doing that's none of no one's business besides my wife and the ones who we've entrusted to counsel us and help us walk through things. So I feel like when you begin to display your relationship on the forefront to the public, to the masses, you give people a voice in your marriage or in your relationship that they really shouldn't have because that's sacred.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking about as you were talking, just about why people even go to YouTube couples. And I know I said earlier in the conversation that, it's because it's filling a void, or they may have answered a question that maybe your family hasn't answered for you, or you didn't think to go back to them. I know you said that, that's not always necessarily true. People can't give you advice because they've had a failed relationship.
What I said was that even when someone is saying something you don't like, or even if they have a failed relationship, you can still listen to them because there's still some things that they're saying that may be truthful that you can use, even if it's like 10 or 8%.
I get what you're saying. You do have to kind of weed through, like, are they saying that out of fear? I think that there's a level that you have to figure that out. You have to figure it out from the source. Like, yeah, they say a lot of things because they're fearful or blase. But no, as far as the YouTube couples are concerned, I was just thinking about, why they fail. And so one thing that you said just a moment ago was just that how they live every part of their life publicly. And also too, what I was telling you in like pre-production, just how I was reading different testimonies about the different ones who have divorced or broken up. It was surprising to me because it was just kind of like, yeah, what started off as fun either turned into us doing or recording things just so we can keep up with the demands of the content or of the brands, or so we can make the check. And so we stopped having fun, or it stopped being, the goal just became something different. I was just thinking about, it was something else that was said that was in one of the articles. I wish I could remember where I read this at, but I read quite a few. One guy said brands prefer couples over single individuals because they know that they can bounce ideas off of one another and express more emotion when, it's more than one person.
Yeah.
And so, like, as soon as you kind of put yourself out there and you're showing that you're open to brands, you're showing that you're open to, working with these bigger companies, it's just kind of like you're at the mercy of either the public or the companies, and it's almost like, well, what are you willing to do? Like, what is the price? I know when we were talking about pranks in our last episode, we were just like, there's some things that are priceless. Like, you cannot put a price on, dishonoring or what have you. Because what I noticed on YouTube in particular is that a lot of couples have turned to pranking or turned to dishonoring one another, or, just kind of living out like an argument or what have you, like on YouTube. Who was it? My favorite actress is Tia and Tamara Mowry. And I know they're married now, but I don't remember like whose last name is who. So I'm just going to say it that way. For those of you who know them, they had a reality show at one point, but they were showing their families. They were showing a portion of their marriage. And I think like the parents, their parents did not want to be shown on their show. And they were respectful of that. But what they said was they canceled their show because they noticed that it would breed more arguments in their marriage. And by saying that, what they were saying was that, they could have had an argument 6 months ago when filming was happening. But then once the episode gets released, the public is now seeing it, and then they're processing what happened. And then it was like they had to rehash it again with their spouse and how they felt. And so they were reliving that moment in time that was almost like stamped forever on video, basically.
Yeah.
And so they noticed that it was causing like a shift in their marriages. And so they decided for their sanity and the health of their marriage that they wouldn't do reality TV.
Yeah, I mean, that's wise, you know. I was thinking about the Mary situation, and I didn't really follow the TV show, well, the reality show too well, but I did follow their music back in the day. I remember someone was telling me who watched the show that her husband had an affair or whatever. But of course, you know, because it was a reality TV show, it was on the show. And sometimes I think to myself, I wonder if they had a reality TV show, even in the midst of their marriage troubles, would they still be married to this day? And I'm saying it because it's like, you know, your husband already committed adultery. So now this is to the masses to see, and they're giving their opinions and their 2 cents. And then, you know, by the time Bama's go crazy with Twitter fingers and Instagram fingers and Facebook fingers, you may have wanted to actually work it out with your spouse, but because of the other million something opinions, you're like, man, you know, forget this cat. You know what I'm saying? I'm gone. So sometimes I just think about, just from that perspective, how having your relationship on the forefront like that, it actually can be, you know, rather detrimental. And I think in today's society, people actually don't understand the importance of just having things sacred. It's kind of like, I remember back in the day, I remember like probably over 8 years ago, there was this like little social media platform that you can use for dating, and women would go up there dressed half naked or like show pictures of themselves like in the bathroom in a bra or some panties. It's like, yeah, I'm looking for a good dude, but all they want, you know, is sex. And I'm thinking to myself, and I remember one time I was texting the young lady, I'm like, what do you expect? Like, if you're showing all this stuff, your body and, you know, your breasts and your behind, that type of stuff is supposed to be sacred. You know, it's not for you to show to the masses, but then, you know, it's like people get upset. Well, why can't I get a good guy? Or why everybody trying to sleep with me? What do you think? When you put certain things out to the world that God intended to be sacred, what do you expect? You know what I'm saying? People be like, well, you should mind your business. It's like, mind your business. I mean, you got a joint blasted on YouTube and advertised on your Facebook. Like, I mean, if it was your business, it's mine now.
Wow, that's terrible.
You know, I mean, I
get what you're saying, though.
But what I'm saying is that, like, I think that even in the scriptures, I love with God, like how even if you read the scriptures, and just the nature and character of God, and even the relationship that I have with God isn't the same that you may have with God. You know what I'm saying? The relationship that I have with our kids isn't the same as yours. That's because there's a level of sacredness there. Can you actually look at the word sacred real quick? Sorry, but I feel like oftentimes, like, we just don't go out of our way to keep things that are sacred. You know what I'm saying? Like, my marriage is sacred. Like, I don't discuss with people what me and my wife do in the bed. Whatever we do in the bed is our business. That's our business. That's no one else's business. I don't discuss that. I don't talk about it. That's no one else's business. That's sacred. You know, the sex life that I have with my spouse is sacred. So I think that oftentimes people do not hold things dear and keep things sacred. They put things that are sacred out to the forefront. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to be honest, like, I feel like even certain things that women wear, I'm telling somebody at one point, I had stopped going to the gym because it's like when women would come in that joint half naked, I'm like, yo, are you coming to work out or are you coming to shoot a porn scene or something? It's like, come on, man. Like, really?
Yeah, but like the majority is doing that. So then as a woman, it's like the pressure is, because I mean, I manage, you know, social media accounts, and I'm just sitting there like, as I'm looking at the hashtags and the different things that are tagged, I'm just like, okay, so is everyone just naked? Are they soliciting? Like, I didn't know that this was an actual thing. For my personal account, I only have like 300 some odd friends. And I'm just kind of like, you know, when somebody shows themselves half naked or posting something half naked, I'm just like, oh, well, that's done.
I need to unfollow them.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't need to see that. You know, that's easy. But then when I'm on these other accounts that are public and open, it's just like, I think people are desensitized because it's everywhere. But no, so the definition of sacred is connected with God or dedicated to a religious purpose. And the thing I was thinking about, so you're talking about things being sacred, but you know what? On the flip side of that, I'm thinking about the people who like to watch those things, the people who like to get into or who kind of obsess over, you know, what this couple doing and almost comparing, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like the same with you're comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel on social media. It kind of goes back to, well, I don't see this in my own life. This is something that I desire. This gives me hope. Because one thing I was telling one of my friends the other day, I said, you know, you may not realize it right now, but your marriage, your relationship with others and how you hold yourself and conduct yourself in relationship with others, people are watching that. And that gives them hope that, okay, if she can have a successful marriage, if she can have a successful relationship or rekindle some friendships or what have you, I can do the same thing in a healthy way with a healthy perspective.
Right. But what you're actually saying is something organic. Most of these YouTube relationships or YouTube vlogs, they're fabricated. I mean, and what I mean by the relationship that they have to their girlfriend or boyfriend, it may be real, that they're conjuring up material, kind of like putting an album. You've gone through the experiences, but you're conjuring up material for a project. So it's not really organic. It's like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying I can't give someone good advice on how to treat your spouse or whatever, but it's like, I mean, outside of all that joint, like just do that, just do that and not try to make it like a whole shoot my life, I'm sorry, film my life, I'm talking about like getting a shotgun and start shooting stuff, but just film my life. It's like, just give like, kind of like what we do. You can, and that way you give advice and it's like, it's not like you don't get the opportunity to see like my life. It's funny because I was watching, listening to an interview, with Lecrae. He's a Christian MC. And, one of the things that he said was that like, don't think you know me just because you see me in an interview or I share 15 seconds or a minute of something on Instagram. He's like, don't think you know me. He's like, that's just like, he said, that's just a small piece, like a percentage of my life, probably not even 5%. So it's like, don't think you know me because you see this little interview or because I'm saying something on Instagram, you know what I'm saying? So I think that oftentimes people think that they know you because they get the opportunity to watch you on YouTube or watch your vlog or whatever. But I'm like, man, that stuff is, to an extent, it's still fabricated. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. I mean, and it has to be to keep up with the demands. Like, so let's say we were to put out a vlog, right? And then we have thousands upon thousands of followers. And then, they'll say, oh my gosh, I love a trip like that. Or that seems so much fun. I wish I could do that. And then they start asking, well, how do you travel with kids? And it's kind of like, well, my next vacation is like 2 years from now, but maybe we can kind of allot some funds or try to get a deal to get a free vacation. And then I could talk about this or talk about that. Getting into the viewer's perspective of the YouTube couples vloggers or reality star couples or whatever. So I read this on Psychology Today. You're stimulating like intimacy, and it's not, it's fabricated intimacy. Psychology Today was saying like when people are watching personal vlogs on YouTube, it can provide closeness and warmth to the point where people experience a deep sense of connecting, giving them a dopamine hit. And I was like, wow, that sounds like porn to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. It sounds like it's replacing everyday relationships. I stop and I ask a lot of questions while I'm reading something as if I'm talking with somebody. And so before I read on, I was just kind of like, oh, well, or why do these people do that? Or why do they get a hit from that? Why is that so similar to porn? And so when I read further, they were saying like while experiencing like watching a vlog or watching someone else's life, they start to have hypothetical changes that could meet immediate needs. So like if they experience or deal with loneliness or deal with anxiety around having friendships or having relationships, with those, that's like a risk. But with them watching like couples or watching people on social media, it's like, well, I'm taking no risk by watching them. I do feel close to them because, they've said their name. They said, hey guys, hey my fans. And,
hey my fans is saying their name.
I mean, sometimes but here's the thing. Sometimes they shout out their fans, like people who watch them, who maybe give them super chats or, pay them or is always commenting on things. They comment back, because remember, I don't know if you remember this. It was like sometime last year after that whole like Momo thing where they shut down the comment section on YouTube. It was actually interesting how the viewership went down on those YouTube videos. And the creators were like, oh, my views are down. And so, from the creators' perspective, it was just kind of like, oh, well, my views went down, so my money going down, and I don't know what to do because they shut off the comment section. But with the comments, those who were able to keep their comments on, they didn't have any like effect. If anything, their comment section probably grew, because then now it's like, oh, now my viewers have to go to another platform to like communicate with me on this video, and making it harder to engage them.
It's I don't know, man. I'm old school, you know what I'm saying? Like, I watch videos on YouTube, but I don't comment. I don't even really comment on people's posts on Facebook, to be honest. Like, I'm just not engulfed into that reality world or social media world. I'm just not really engulfed into it. Like, it's funny because, like, I go on my Instagram, which I have, but I never really use. I may post 5 times a year on Instagram. You know, I may post like once a week on Facebook. I just don't. I know it's not real. I use it for business wise, and we use it for our About This Love brand. But as far as like personally connected with somebody, it's like, I might shoot you a text, say, hey, here's my number. You can call me. But it's like, because I remember one time I was talking to somebody on Facebook Messenger, and I think we were texting each other like 2 or 3 times. But then once we started typing up paragraphs, I was like, man, here's my number, man. Just call me. I'm about to sit here for 2-3 hours with you typing up paragraphs. I mean, you can just call me. You know what I'm saying? Nah, that's what I'm not going to do. So I say all that to say I'm just not engrafted into this whole, as far as social media and YouTube. Like, even when I watch YouTube videos, I don't really comment on videos.
I don't know. Like, I'm a little bit different because I think, like, because my following, or whatever you want to call it, like, my friends list is really small. It's a lot of people that I've actually once either had a relationship with, as far as friendships in high school, or, I had an experience with them. Like, I don't know, we used to go to school together, or we used to work at the same job. And so I find myself commenting on, like, if they share something. So hear me out. I know that it's not a real community, but for some people, it's so real to them. And I'm like, I see the loneliness. You know what I'm saying? I see how they want friends. I see how they want interaction. And from what I know about social media is that it can start from there. Like, I have a friend who met actually a couple of friends who kind of like shot their friendship shot on social media. And it was almost like, hey, we're in the same group. We were having a conversation about this and that. If you want to, do you want to go out for lunch and, just kind of have a day together? And, she was telling me, yeah, this person was shooting their friendship shot with me. And I was just like, wow, really? They were? And on one hand, it was just kind of like, is that safe? But then on another hand, of course, she used discernment on whether or not, and took the proper precautions to not like, oh, don't come to my house, meet me somewhere public, and we're going to be somewhere public. And of course, told different ones where they were going and who she's going to be with and how to contact her. You know what I'm saying? Like, using common sense.
Like, it sounds like somebody's a killer or something.
Well, no, because you just never know. And like, shoot, somebody's trying to impersonate my grandmother on Facebook, and I keep reporting the page. And so I'm just like, I know that's not her, because my grandmother is in her 70s and she don't got time for Facebook. Like, every time we come over, it's kind of like, can you turn my tablet on so I can turn on church, turn on the sermon? So I know it's not her. I say all that to say, for me, I know that can become something to someone. And so I spend a little bit more time on social media than you do. And one for my business, for others' business. And so people put their hearts out in some of the, their caption, only for a business to come underneath it and be like, hey, DM us for a collab. And I'm just like, wow, they just shared how they just fought depression and fought this and fought that. And even though this is the highlight reel of that, I'm just going to acknowledge that they put a little bit more time and effort. And I'm just going to say, my 2 cents. I'm just going to give my 2 cents on, I read what you wrote. Thank you for sharing that. Just little things like that. Or even and that means something to someone.
I'm the opposite.
Even if it don't, I know, look, you was clear on that, brother. Like, I get that. You was really clear on that. But sometimes it's just like, I know a couple of ones who was talking about like having suicidal thoughts on Facebook. And I'm just like, this is not your diary. People do not care. You know what I'm saying? People don't care.
Exactly.
And I started praying for them, but I didn't have to tell them that I'm praying for them, because I will do something that, you said earlier that you do. So like my closer friendships, I'll see them post and I see like hundreds of comments and, oh yeah, you killed it. Or, you did that thing. And I'm just like, that's cool. I see it. I'll send a like. But then I'll either text or call them and be like, I really loved, your post. You look good. And keep up the good work. I'll say things more personable over a phone call or a text or even in person versus like online. So I feel you on that. But for those other ones, like who is just on my friendship list, they don't even call it my friends list, I may just engage them a little bit more because I'm just like, they on here all day and they're just looking for someone to talk to.
I feel you.
Or connect with throughout their day because no one asks them.
I understand. Use it for what it's worth, but I would just say, like, if you want relationship advice, try to find people that are close to you that you know personally who you normally wouldn't engage like that, but just ask them. Begin to talk to them and engage them. Ask them. Can I ask you some? Because I know before I got married, it's cats that I know. I said, hey, well, can I ask you about marriage? And some said good things, some said bad things. You know what I'm saying? But I think, like I said before in the beginning, you just take what you can get from what they say. Because I mean, one of the things that I don't do is I don't let someone's bad experience become mine. Because sometimes people will be like, man, that movie was trash, and then I watch it, I'm like, man, that joint was good. I liked it. Because I can't someone else's opinion become my own because I'm not you. I don't like what you like. I don't hate what you hate. So I can't allow your opinion to become my own. So, just with that, with everything, if you need to watch the YouTube videos or whatever, I mean, watch them. But like I said before, if you can, try to find somebody that you're close to and engage them about relationships and ask them questions. And if you feel like, it's not useful, then, just ask the Lord to send you someone in your life who can help you walk these things out, anything that you may need relationship wise. Because oftentimes, I feel like we don't ask the Lord these things. We don't ask the Lord to put people in our lives who can display to us a good relationship. So we don't get it. We just kind of seek it out for ourselves. And it's something different when I seek something out and it's the truth versus I seek something out and it's just superficial. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of the YouTube videos, when they first started, it may have been genuine and it may have been authentic. But now for the views and the checks, it's fabricated. It's superficial now. You know what I'm saying? So in all things, just first, seek God and ask the Lord to give you those individuals who can be an example to you in relationships or whatever area, that you want to navigate through. So with that being said, thank you for rocking with us today on About This Love podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Always remember you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be found. Until next time, peace.